So why do capable people stop being themselves in a room full of strangers? By the end of today's show, you'll understand what your brain is actually doing when you walk into a room full of people you don't know, why it happens, even when you're perfectly capable everywhere else. And I'll give you a simple 3-step process you can run in seconds before you walk into that room. Most people think this is about not knowing what to say. It isn't. Your brain is running a safety check before you've even opened your mouth, deciding whether that room is dangerous or not. That's why you freeze. That's why you stand there like a lemon holding your drink. And that's why you leave exhausted and replay the whole thing for hours afterwards. You're not bad at this. Your brain is doing a great job. Interesting, right? Today, we're going to look at what specifically happens when you walk into a room, whether that's like a networking room. Maybe you started a new job, right? And you just walked into the office and there's all these faces looking at you going, oh, there's a newbie, right? It can be a situation at home. It can be anything, but it's that feeling that you don't feel comfortable when you're walking into a room. So let's think about walking into a room. And I'm going to show you a process that is very simple, and it's called the doorway reset. All right. But I like to give you science behind some of the stuff we're going to do as well. And I like to give you a little bit of an explanation about why we're doing stuff. So before we go into the science for this one, I just want you to answer a few questions for yourself. And I want you to be honest. So have you ever stood outside a venue and just taken that deep breath before you could walk in, right? Have you ever walked into a room and immediately scanned to see if you can find somewhere safe, right? That might be like a wall that you can stand with your back to it so you can just see other people, but they can't come up behind you. Or have you stood by the food table or just been on your phone in the hope that people think that you're doing something important, or maybe in the hope they don't come and talk to you, which obviously is counterintuitive, right, when you're going to meet people. And have you ever left that situation early because you just couldn't hack it anymore and you needed an escape plan? But when you got home, it just overtook your mind and you were so annoyed with yourself. Or maybe you did actually speak to some people and you were like, why did I say that? Why didn't I say that? And you spend the whole night feeling exhausted, but just overplaying everything that went on. Most people have done it at least one of these. I've done all of them, but it doesn't mean we're not capable. It just means we're struggling in that type of situation. And I'm going to help you to understand as we go along through this show why that might be the case, right? And obviously I work with my clients with this a lot as well. And I work with really capable high performers a lot of the time. And yeah, they struggle walking into certain situations, and it's perfectly natural. So I just want you to know that anything that I talk about on any of these shows, I'm not just taking it out from my backside. Most of the time I've lived it myself and found ways to navigate around it. So let's unpack a little bit of what your brain is actually doing in these situations, right? So when you're walking into one of these rooms, your brain will instantly start scanning to see what feels unfamiliar. And it will ask one question: am I safe here? Now, you might be thinking, well, why would my brain be asking that? Well, the fact of the matter is, it's asking that question before you've even considered whether you even want to be there, right? Your subconscious mind is already scanning that room before a conscious thought has even come into your head, like, oh God, I don't want to do this. Because remember, your brain is your whole body, it's your subconscious programming. It's already done that job for you. It's already decided it doesn't feel safe, right? It's already responded. Well, come up with an opinion, if you like, right? Now, that opinion might be wrong, but it's come up with its opinion and it's reacting in whatever way it wants to respond to that opinion. Hope that makes sense, right? So if you've ever been judged, rejected, laughed at, left out, or felt that you wasn't quite good enough, any of those experiences got filed away in your subconscious programming. And I always like to think of them as like drawers in a filing cabinet, right? Every time an event happens, we will attach a meaning to it. Now, if that meaning is happy, fun, brilliant, great, that's sending happy, positive vibes and sitting in that filing cabinet. But if there's any negative connotations to it, then negative feelings, negative emotions, negative beliefs, they're also going to be stored in your filing cabinet, but they are not good. And the more of those we get, they just keep building and building until one day your jaw just flies open because it can't take any more negative stuff going on. And that's when we might have a moment, a panic attack or get sick or something like that. Something kind of what might be deemed out of the blue, but it might be more the fact that it just can't take any more. So it might be something that's not massive that's triggered it, but actually, that small trigger might not feel relevant to the way that you've reacted, but that's because it's all stored, right? This is what I call your identity box, right? So imagine every significant experience you've ever had, it's like you're putting these into a box. Now you can think of it as a brick if you want, putting a brick in your box. So this might be you were laughed at school, and maybe you were the new person and you just never quite fitted in, or you always felt different. Maybe someone embarrassed you in front of other people. Maybe you felt judged or rejected. Now, you might consciously forget these things, but those experiences don't disappear. They're still stored, right? And it's stored as evidence about who you believe you are. So what happens is, over time, your identity box really starts telling stories like, oh, I can't do this because I'm quite awkward. Oh, I can't fill out forms because I can't do it. It might be, oh, I'm really shy, so I can't do this. Or I don't fit in. I'm not good with new people. We create these beliefs, enable us to create evidence, and therefore we create a story about these things, and that becomes our story of life, right? So I can't go networking because I won't know what to say, or if I go networking, I'm just going to be a lemon, right? But that's old evidence. So what we want to do is start creating new evidence. All right. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. It doesn't really look at what's happening on the outside either, because it's just showing up what it knows from your filing cabinet. It's your subconscious programming. So when your system decides a room might not be safe, then it will move into protection mode. So your brain's only job is to protect you, and it will look for evidence to do so, right? And as I said, that might look like freezing, it might look like avoiding, talking too fast, over explaining, agreeing with everybody when you don't really, or heading straight for that one familiar face and staying with them all day or all night, whatever the situation is. None of that is a character flaw though, because it's protection. And it's why telling yourself just to be more confident doesn't tend to work. And just always remember this: you are trying to use conscious thought to talk down an automatic response that started before you even got there. And that's really important to remember. Your body goes for evidence, rightly or wrongly, mostly wrongly, before you've even thought about what's going on and what's happening, right? And this is why it's so important that we upgrade that subconscious programming. It's not always about going into a room for networking. That's obviously an example. But it could be, like I said, your first day somewhere new, whether that's a job, whether that's school or university or any adult education, anything. And that could be a virtual room as well, right? It doesn't always have to be a physical room. Now, it could be that you're being introduced to maybe senior people that you've only ever dealt with them on email, and actually see them in the flesh and like, oof, that can be a little bit unnerving. And these are quite common as well, right? And like if you've met a new partner, and especially if you're a little bit older and you're being introduced to all their friends. So my point being, these situations are coming up in our lives all the time. So yes, it might be work, but it could also be in our own personal lives as well. As I say, a different room, but the process is the same. So before I go into the process, I want you to understand why it works first for you logical thinkers, right? Otherwise, it's just 3 nice things to say to yourself before you walk into a room. Now, I'll explain it and then we'll do a demo together. So step number 1, it would be naming the response so that we can actually loosen the grip, right? So what we mean by that is when you notice what's happening in your body, you can put a word to it. You change your relationship with it. You stop being inside the reaction and start observing it instead, right? And it probably will carry on, but you're aware of it now, and then you can start making more changes and you can stop it from driving you and you can start driving it. Number 2, right, your brain updates on evidence, like we said. You can simply tell yourself to be more confident, but your brain isn't listening to the words, it's looking for evidence. So every time you walk into that room, if you stay there a bit longer, that's creating positive evidence. If you have a genuine conversation with someone and actually come away thinking, oh, that was really good, I made some good contacts, I actually even enjoyed that, positive evidence, right? And actually nothing really happened that was bad, positive evidence. And you're collecting this new piece of evidence every time. So if you want to think about it as a brick by brick, you're replacing your old story inside your identity box. Number one, naming a response to loosen the grip. Number two, we've got to update your brain with new evidence, right? And then number three, it has to happen at the door. So what I mean by that is you can't do it when you're already in the room. You need to do it before you've got there, right? That might be, you can do it in the car, in the toilet, or just before you actually walk in the door. It doesn't matter. But the point being, you need to go through the process before you're in that situation. All right. So you're not talking yourself into being more confident. You're giving your brain better information before it decides, aka before it decides that you're not confident. So we don't want it to do that scanning of the room and go into protection mode. What we want to do is go into that room telling our body that we are safe, and actually, and as a result of that, you'll naturally feel more confident. So rather than walking in hoping confidence turns up, we're going to give it that few seconds to kick in before we get in there, right? And I call this the doorway reset. 3 steps, and you can run it beforehand, all right? So the 3 steps are: catch it, name the freeze, don't fight it. Number 2, tell the truth. We're going to tell your body something like, oh, it's old data, it's not today's danger. And then the third thing is we're going to give it one honest sentence, not a performance. All right, so catch it, name the freeze, don't fight it. Number 2, tell the truth, old data, not today's danger. And number 3, one real thing, one honest sentence, not performance. So that's the list of what we're going to do, but I want to do a walkthrough with you so it makes sense, because just reading stuff off just doesn't do it. I would like you to close your eyes, but obviously don't do this if you're driving or doing anything serious. So get yourself comfortable if you are able to. I want you to, first of all, think about a situation that you're going to be walking into, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, whenever it is, right? What events have you got coming up? Yeah, maybe it's a wedding, maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's a situation. So it doesn't always have to be a work one. So I want you just to think about this event. Now I want you to picture yourself standing outside the door of this event that you're going to go into. All right. Now I know you might never have been there before, so you might not know what it looks like. But just use your imagination. Like, if it is a wedding, what kind of venue is it? If it's a networking event, what is it in a hotel? You know, so you can get a bit of an idea, but it doesn't really matter. It's just, it can be any door. And what I want you to do is notice what happens in your body when you do that. What happens to your shoulders? Do they get tense? What happens to your breathing? Does that get a bit more constant, a bit more manic? What happens to your stomach? Does that feel tight? Do you feel a bit sick? Whatever it is, just notice it. And that's what we're going to be working with. All right. Now what I want you to do is step 1, catch it. Name it to yourself right now. This is my brain doing its job. It's trying to keep me safe. It's not me being rubbish at this. Yeah. And step number 2, I want you to tell your brain the truth. Say this one yourself. This is old data, not today's danger. And notice you don't have to believe it completely for it to do something. And step 3, choose your one real thing. Now decide while you're sitting here, what is your one honest sentence going to be about this? Remember, it's not that you can't network well, or it's not being confident. One true sentence might be something like, oh God, I hate doing this, as you talk to the person that's giving you the name badge. But I personally would prefer you to have a positive sentence like, I love going to networking events. I love showing up in new places where I don't know anybody. It's so much fun. And that gives you a much better energy in your body. Have you got that? Good. That's the whole thing. And I want you to take one more slow, deep breath in and out, and bring your attention back into your current room, wherever that is. We're trying to visualize the situation before we go into it. Tell our brains that, no, I'm not having this. This is old data. This is not today's danger. And then we're going to come up with that statement, but I prefer it to be positive. Because when you say something negative, it sends negative energy to your body. So, you know, you love being at these events. I can't think of anything more exciting. All right. I hope this makes sense. I've got a networking event coming up next week, and I haven't been to any for ages. So I'm going to meditate on this as well, and then I'm going to visualize myself going into this room and introducing myself, because that's been one of my things that I've always hated about networking, is knowing what to say. When I was in the corporate, oh yeah, I'm Julie, I work here and I'm a project manager. Easy. What do you do? Well, I manage projects. Duh. Right? But in the world that I am now, as I've moved through my processes and tried to come up now with my own signature solution, the identity box rewrite method, it's about how do I say that in a constant way. I used to say I'm a stress and anxiety specialist, but now I'm more about building your confidence by changing your identity in the identity box rewrite method. I just want you to understand that I don't always have all my shit together either. All right. I am more aware of things and I pick things up about myself quicker, but I still fall into some of the traps. I've done a lot of work on myself, so I don't get triggered as much, but I do get triggered. And, you know, anyone that does know, I've been through a lot recently. My father died. He's been sick, and I've got mum with dementia, and we're trying to sort out how she's going to be. So with the best will in the world, we can show up as best we can. I'm still showing up to you today when I've got loads of things that I could have distracted myself with, but this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to share, and it's about helping other people to move forward to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. All right. So remember, your body's reacting to past things that have happened to you. So every time you head to that safe corner, stay glued to someone you know, every time you leave early, you're not just having an awkward evening. You're reinforcing the identity your brain already believes. So if you go and do the same thing, you're just confirming that evidence that you've already stacked up, right? But every time you do something different, like you stay in the room longer, speak to another person, even maybe you even start a conversation, you're collecting that new evidence. And you're proving that your identity box isn't fixed. And that's why confidence isn't something you suddenly wake up with. It's something your brain gradually believes because you've shown it enough evidence, or you've upgraded it, or you've changed your belief systems, right? You're not becoming someone new. You're becoming that version, that identity of the person that you should have always been, had you not had all these limiting beliefs and emotions all stored in your body. Does that make sense? So who have you learned to be in a room full of strangers? And is that still who you want to be? Because the reset is not a trick you do once. It's a different thing to practice. Not, I'm rubbish at this, I can't walk into a room. Practice this process, all right? And I want you to picture what this actually looks like, right? It's not a transformation, just different, because you're just going to be different as you walk into the room. You might still feel it, but you'll be different, and you're collating that positive evidence. So remember, just staying that extra 40 minutes is going to make a difference. Moving out of that corner quicker, making that decision to start a conversation quicker. This is all evidence, all right? And if you can stay even longer without having to find that escape route, that's all positive evidence going forward. So next time you can automatically stay a little bit longer. And when you get home, you've got a little bit of energy left and you're not so exhausted because you're just like, feel like you've been zapped by the whole experience. Confidence isn't about knowing exactly what to say. Confidence is feeling safe enough to be yourself. And that's the real shift. Because once your nervous system feels safe, you stop performing and you start connecting to yourself and to other people. All right. And there's one more part to this as well that nobody really plans for. When you've had one of those experiences, or even a pleasant experience, when you get home, you're replaying it all. You sit down, your body's physically on the sofa, but your brain is still standing in that room, going back over every conversation, maybe you had or didn't have, right? What you said or you didn't say. And then that's just exhausting because you're just wired and you can't get to sleep anyway. And what cost does that have, right? Because, and this is one of my favorite sayings at the moment, tomorrow doesn't start when you wake up. It starts with how you finish today. Just let that sink in. So if you finish today not sleeping, your mind's wired, you're not going to have a great start to tomorrow. So this week, it's not about trying to fix every room. Just pick one room where you could do better in, and just baby steps, one step at a time, one door at a time. But just make sure you do it before you walk into that room. Catch it, tell the truth, and one real thing. Then pay attention to the first 2 minutes, not the whole night or the day, the first 2 minutes. Do you walk in differently? Do you speak differently? Do you speak sooner? What's your breathing like? Is it much calmer? Listen, you're not looking for it to feel amazing. You're just gathering new evidence that you can pin on in your box, or put your brick in your identity box. That's what you're doing. Bringing in new positive evidence, not negative, because that's going to stay on the other board. All right. So if today's tool is about getting you through the door, I have the evening upgrade that you can download. It's free. It's about 10 minutes. It's just like a guided audio to help you leave today behind and ready for tomorrow. All right. So you stop the replaying of what's happened in those rooms or what's happened in that day. And it's a really lovely calming audio just to get you off to sleep at night. So when you wake up the next day, you're feeling in a better frame of mind before you've even got out of bed even. All right. And remember, the room isn't dangerous. Your brain just thinks it might be. And now you have a way to show it otherwise. And every time you choose curiosity over protection, every time you collect one new piece of evidence, you're removing another brick or another post-it note from the old identity box and putting it on the new evidence box, right? And one day you'll just walk into a room and realize that you didn't need to become someone else at all. You simply gave yourself permission to be who you've always been and who you deserve to be. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please go into my YouTube channel and subscribe, like and share, because the more we can get this message around, the better. And I'll see you soon. Bye.